I'm Roy from Roy's Garage. Today I'm going to be working on a 2012 Honda CRV 2.4 liter automatic. I'm going to show you how to replace the rear brake pads and rotors. These are the tools I'm going to be using today to do this job. A hood prop, rubber mallet, 3-pound sledgehammer, 17mm wrench, 12mm wrench, 10mm wrench, impact screwdriver, small flat tip screwdriver, vice grip, air gun, caliper piston compressor, Phoenix brake flusher, brake clean, bottle of water with a hole on it, suction ball, anti-seize, and some ceramic grease. These are the parts I'm going to be using today to do this job: rear rotors, rear pads, and .3 brake fluid. Okay, so first I'm going to be removing this rubber cap. Then I'm going to be loosening this bleeder screw. Okay. So I'm going to be removing this caliper, removing these 2 bolts. So I'm going to be removing this brake mount. So removing the caliper. Okay, put it on the side. So we're going to be removing the caliper mount. There's 2 bolts, one here and one there. So we're going to be removing this rotor, but there's 2 screws I got to remove. So I'm going to be using my impact screwdriver to remove these screws. Okay, removing the rotor. So I'm going to be removing this plug. This is an inspection plug. I'm going to be transferring this to the new rotor. So I'm going to be installing this new brake rotor. If you notice, this is a coated rotor. Just leave it on. We're just going to shoot some brake clean in case there's any oil. We're going to be removing it. So I'm going to be installing this rubber plug to the new rotor. Okay, so I'm going to be putting on some anti-seize around the hub. So I'm going to be putting on my rotor. So you got to align this hole with that hole. So now I'm going to be adjusting the rear emergency brake. Right now it feels kind of loose. So there's a star adjuster over here. You got to turn it. You got to expand the shoe. So on this one I'm going to be turning it towards me, upwards. Just do it a few turns and then try fit the rotor again. It's supposed to get a real slight drag. Right now it feels kind of loose, so I'm going to open it up a little more. So that feels perfect. There's a very slight drag to it. So now I'm going to be putting on these screws. Put a little anti-seize on it. So now I'm going to be compressing my piston. So I have this piston compressor. Be putting it right in and tightening it up. I'm going to loosen my bleeder screw. So as I'm tightening it up, the brake fluid will come out. If you don't do that, all the dirty brake fluid is going to go back up to your master. So crank it down all the way until it bottoms out. And lock it up. Take your tool out. Now you can remove the brake pad. Okay. So I'm going to be lubricating this caliper mount. So I'm going to be pulling out these pins. So I'm going to get some ceramic grease. Put it in the caliper mount. So grease up my pins. So I'm going to be reusing the old hardware. If your old hardware shims are good, just reuse it. They do have new shims that come with the kit, but a lot of times the shim doesn't fit good and it wants to fall off. So if your original shim is still good, just reuse it. So I'm going to be bolting up the caliper mount. Okay, so now we're going to be installing the inboard pad onto the caliper. If you notice, there's this wear indicator over here. This goes on the inboard side. Your rotor is spinning counterclockwise, so this goes onto the leading edge of the rotor. So we're going to be lubricating this pad, the back of the pad. Put a little lube on this piston. Then we got to put this pad right into the piston. So I'm going to be lubricating the caliper. Okay, so I'm going to be installing the outboard pad. Sliding my caliper onto the caliper mount and bolting it up. Okay, on this one the pin is turning, so what I need to do is get a vice grip, grip the pin, and then tighten up the bolt. This guy is turning too. Okay, so now I'm going to be mounting the brake hose. Now we're going to flush out the brakes. I'm going to be removing the brake fluid from the brake master reservoir. So first we need to remove this plastic piece. Open up the cap, suck out as much as you can, and then I'm going to be removing my screen. and suck out the rest of the fluid. So I'm just going to cover the reservoir. So I'm going to be flushing out this brake. So I'm going to be opening up the bleeder screw, and with my Phoenix brake flusher, I'm going to be pumping fresh fluid from the caliper up to the master. So it uses about half a bottle per wheel. Okay, so we're going to be sucking out the brake fluid again. Don't forget to put the screen in. Cap. Okay, so first I'm going to be starting up the vehicle. Now I'm going to be pumping the brake up and down no more than halfway until I feel pressure, just to seat the pads. That feels real good. So I'm going to use my hood prop. I'm going to be putting one end against the brake pedal and one end against the seat. I'll be pressurizing the brake system. So I'm going to be opening up the bleeder screw. Make sure there's no air in the system. Okay, that looks good. So lock it up. So I'm going to be shooting some water on my bleeder screw, because brake fluid is water soluble. I'm going to be blowing it down with air, drying it off. So now I'm going to be pressurizing my brake system one more time. I have the brake pressurized for about 15-20 seconds. Checking the bleeder screw, it looks dry, no signs of leak. Now you can put your rubber cap on, and when you road test the vehicle, you might hear a grinding sound. That's all of this coating coming off the rotor. Eventually that grinding sound will go away and you'll be good to go. So I took off the hood prop, I turned the engine off. Now we're going to be just double checking the level on the brake fluid. Just going to top it off a little bit more. So that's how you replace rear brake pads and rotors. If you have any questions, comment below. Don't forget to subscribe. Give me a thumbs up, and I see you in the next video. Aloha.